Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest episode of Expert Insight. My name is Dan Clubb. I'm delighted to be joined once again by the Chief Business and Football Writer for Liverpool Echo, Dave Powell. Dave, my friend, how are you? Okay.
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I know we're coming at this on the back of disappointing weekend for the Reds, but my team, Chester, the Blues, doing all right. Big game against Scunthorpe this weekend, so there's no international break for us. But yeah, there we go.
That was a League Two fixture not too long ago, I imagine. Chester
Yeah,
Scunthorpe,
some
yeah.
time ago now. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Gosh, I've
bloody
forgotten what the
hell.
football league was like.
I can imagine, mate. Yeah, I can well imagine. Yeah, well, hopefully the Seals can get back there at some point in the not too distant future, my mate. Let's do this, shall we? We spoke not too long ago about just sort of a whistle-stop tour, really, around some of the subjects involving Liverpool, involving the Reds and finances and what have you. But we've learned a fair amount more since then, I think it's fair to say. We sort of earmarked a future conversation down the line when we knew a little bit more, and here we are, we know a little bit more. Let's start off with what was described as the worst kept secret in football, which is now very much not a secret. Adidas back involved with the Reds, reunited with the Reds, I think it's fair to say. They announced that reunion a couple of Mondays ago now. Bit of a surprise announcement, I guess, really, considering what's going on with the club and how sort of intertwined we are with Nike still, but that's by the by. Yeah, you did an article on it, naturally. Liverpool's most valuable ever kit deal when all the potential add-ons was one of the lines I took from that. Yeah, tell us about it and tell us why, I guess.
Yeah, I think I had an interesting conversation with someone that works in the sponsorship and commercial space a couple of weeks ago, just around the whole kind of Nike Liverpool deal. And while yes, it's been lucrative for Liverpool because if you look at the kind of the rise in commercial income, because let's not forget that Liverpool were willing to go to the High Court to extricate themselves from that New Balance deal in 2019. Um, they kicked it off, with a kind of you know Premier League win the following year, was it? And then obviously COVID hit, so maybe Nike didn't get the impact they wanted from that. That kind of stopped the growth of the partnership maybe a little bit. But since then, they had partnerships. They did kind of collaborations with LeBron James, the Converse thing. But I don't ever feel, and the commercial guy I was speaking to was kind of alluded to it, and I do agree with it. It never felt like a really comfortable fit for Liverpool with Nike. The kits weren't always didn't land always particularly well. A couple of decent efforts, but they didn't really feel like it was a brand that went hand in hand with where Liverpool were at. Yeah, but commercially did very well for them because they were given 20%. They had a flat 35 million or 30 to 35 million pound a year fee, which is what they matched New Balance with. But the real value came in the fact they had a really healthy percentage in terms of add-ons from the sale of Nike and Liverpool branded merchandise. Which when you factor that in across, the fact that Nike have a big distribution network, they have physical retail outlets, and kind of the direct to consumer models, was pretty strong during COVID. It seemed like it kind of worked okay. I mean, and the value was fine, I think. But for Liverpool, they want to grow the kind of lifestyle brand element of it, and I don't think. I mean, it's been a challenging period for Nike actually. They had they had leadership changes which didn't go down particularly well. Share price dropped. They've made, some of their products and their lines haven't landed. They've lost a few big contracts in terms of sports. So if you look across the sporting landscape now, I mean, a lot of most of the major teams are, Adidas have aligned themselves with, and Puma have come to the table. Puma came to the table for Liverpool as well.
Yeah.
Didn't win that tender, but I think that Adidas are more kind of in line with what Liverpool want to do. Obviously, there's the link with kind of a nostalgic, traditional link with some of the kits we've seen in the past. Expect them to lean on that quite heavily. But in terms of Adidas is quite culturally relevant to football. If you only have to look at kind of the rise of things like classic football shirts or vintage jerseys and things like that. They are very much it's very much on brand and of its time now. So I think the ability to kind of turn that into like a lifestyle brand and sell merchandise to people who aren't just hardcore Liverpool fans who are waiting on the shirt but more interested in Adidas is the brand with the three stripes, and and it's iconic. I think Nike struggled to find an identity with Liverpool. The LeBron stuff didn't really land. It seemed a bit of an odd fit having kind of basketball jerseys. It didn't seem like it clicked. Whereas I expect Adidas to be a very much lean into kind of football culture and his kind of traditional football culture, and I think that'll pan itself out in terms of what the product lines look like.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. I was going to mention the fact you touched on Puma there, and Nike were in the running also, but clearly in Liverpool have gone a different way with Adidas. It's interesting. One of the comments, one of the quotes I've seen, I think it was from the CEO, and it just comes in line with what you're saying there in terms of Adidas being football heritage. And you touched on it, but I'll ask you anyway. Like, it does feel like a gold mine to both Liverpool and the brand in terms of that retro. And you said there that they're going to lean on that. They'd be stupid not to, really.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can reissue old shirts or redesign old designs of shirts, but there's so much there. I mean, you only have to look around and see some of um, the kind of vintage jerseys that people wear now. Whether it's old Dutch tops or whatever. That the kind of the Adidas branding sticks and it stays and it's memorable. But it is important, and I think it's um, of the moment. And I think Liverpool probably sense that while they're getting a better guaranteed sum annually from Adidas as well, they are also, there are all the caveats in there. So, they'll get a certain portion of revenue generated from merchandise and sales. Because I know it's always a sore point sometimes for clubs how much people think they earn from these kit deals because there are so many variables involved, which are linked to commercials, to success on the pitch, to how many units are sold, to flat fees, etc. So there's so many variables that go into this. So it's never an easy thing to put a number on. But there's no way Liverpool are doing this without it being better than what they were getting previously, which it is. So, but I think that some of the value they think lies in being able to maximize this kind of the merchandise for people that either are casual fans or people that just like kind of Adidas branded merchandise. And Liverpool produce kind of funky gear with it. So as we see an expansion in terms of the US market running in towards the World Cup, I think the better position clubs are in terms of how their kits and their marketing look. 'Cause look at I think the Arsenal collaboration that Adidas did has been really, really great. And I think there's been some other ones across Europe which have looked good. I mean, the Ajax one
I was
springs to
going to
mind
mention
with the
that
whole
beautiful thing,
Bob
wasn't
Marley
it?
collection and everything. So
Yeah.
I think it allows them to kind of scratch something which they haven't been able to do before, and they don't need to leverage. Yes, LeBron James is a globally recognized figure, but do people, it's not like I think they were expecting for the kind of Jordan brand lift, when it's not really been that, so I think the overriding thing is for them to look into it and think, well, what's the best way of us reaching as many people as we can with what we do, and I mean, Adidas is a great brand and it's iconic, and I think for Liverpool it's going to be a very, very fruitful because there's so much culture and nostalgia that you can link into Liverpool, that I imagine it's going to be a very, very kind of lucrative partnership for them both.
Yeah, I certainly imagine so. I mean, away from the finances around, obviously purely from a fan's perspective, I'm over the moon because I think the kits will be better. I've seen obviously some of the league versions, which aren't accurate by the way, but I have seen them. They look stunning, and yeah, it just feels like a tap in to sort of hark back to the kits of yesteryear, albeit not always successful ones, but still some that we hold fondly in our memories. I've never asked you this, David, I think, but forgive me if I had. You touched on something there, and it's often sort of a line that's trotted out whenever somebody signs anybody, not Liverpool, but anybody signs anybody big. And it's always you'll make that back in shirt sales. I presume you can tell us that's absolute nonsense.
No, no one's making anyone's please back in shirt sales.
I thought so.
If you sign a marquee player, it helps. I remember when Messi signed for PSG, there was a whole notion that they would be able to cover everything that was required through shirt sales, which is kind of nonsensical. Because it gives a lift for that, but it's other things which you can leverage, merchandise, image rights and everything like that, all factored into it. It's not so. But if you've got a marquee player, then yeah, you're going to shift more shirts. But yeah, it's not
Not
gonna
quite enough.
pay the band. No.
Not quite enough. So let's move on to the financial accounts, the annual financial accounts, which we kind of knew about, and then we got the full details and the full breakdown of exactly how that looked more recently. I'll quickly run through them now before I get your opinion on a couple of bits.
Well, good
Media
because I've
revenue.
forgotten them.
Wonderful. I'll remind you as well then. The media revenue fell by 38 million to 204 million. Matchday revenue rose by 22 million to 102. Commercial revenue also rose by 36 to 308. Administrative costs rose by 38 to 60 million. Overall revenue therefore rose by 20 million to 614, which ends up with a loss before tax of 57 million. Now then, anything particularly eye-catching, worrying, or particularly noteworthy in all of that?
Do you know, uh, it's an account which you could have probably predicted pretty accurately. It or is almost the stripping out of attributed revenue from Champions League participation. So um, that it accounts for so much of it. I mean, the biggest dip is the broadcast money. So that is directly linked to a lack of Champions League participation. Now, it was a valuable thing to miss out on last year, but had they missed out on this year, it would have been even more so because the sums are far greater in this revamped competition. A couple of interesting things. The first time they ticked over into 100 million in terms of match day revenue for the first time after the completion of the Anfield Road end. That's impactful, and that's there now. There's Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, and Spurs, who are the four clubs to be in that 100 million bracket. Now, there's not much more Liverpool are going to be able to do in terms of their match day revenue as it stands on there. What you will get next year, well, this current financial year is additional home games in the Champions League will be really valuable because they're sellouts and it's walk-up money that you don't account for from season ticket sales, etc. Um, but that there's a limit what you can do at Anfield. I expect that the growth we'll see for Liverpool around infrastructure will be from kind of ancillary development, so maybe hotels or music venues or things like that in the future. There's similar type of things you've done in Boston around Fenway Park. I expect to see similar type of things like that done in Liverpool over the next 5-10 years, maybe. But getting over that 100 million barrier is key because that the redevelopment will pay for itself in a very short period of time. It satisfies demand, gets more eyes on the product, and makes commercial deals more valuable. All this, that, and the other. So, you've got extra hospitality spaces. So really, the value that's been added through redevelopment of Anfield has been significant since the main stand was opened after its redevelopment in 2016. So yeah, that's been kind of transformational. Commercial revenue's gone on a big incline. A lot of that is linked to, I mean, Liverpool are always going to be a globally recognised brand, but it's success on the pitch they've been able to leverage very well. They have a high retention rate of sponsors as well. Liverpool do. They don't operate. So if you look across Liverpool's sponsorship portfolio, there isn't too many opaque firms. I mean, you could look across some other teams in the Premier League, naming no names, and there are some questionable. I don't know, not libel myself here. There are some deals with firms which, if you Googled them, you would think who works for them. They're kind of AI generated images, and they're betting companies based here, there, and everywhere, or crypto exchanges. Um, but Liverpool, they've been able to, I think they've found their niche in terms of being able to appeal to blue chip brands because they offer something that not every club does. So they have a very, very strong foundation. They've got the link to the women's team. So speaking to one of the important commercial directors at Liverpool about 18 months ago, they explained to me as sponsors now want more than just exposure on the front of shirts or LED screens around the pitch. They want something which is impactful. So they want to see a return on their investment from not just how much exposure they get, but also they have to satisfy the community element of what they need. So they have to. You see a lot of activations with sponsors with the foundation or the environmental work that goes on around the stadium with Johnson and Johnson, that sponsorship, and the women's team, etc. All this has to link through, and that's what sponsors want more than anything now, and Liverpool really give them that. Plus, they seldom find themselves in a real state of crisis off the pitch. So if you look at United at the moment, Manchester United, I would say this all the time. I would curse myself for just referring to them as United. There's a million and one United. Um, but Manchester United are a club who it's going to be challenging to keep that commercial revenue going when everything is kind of so tumultuous and they're not getting any competitive success. I mean, you have to have one or the other. Whereas Liverpool have managed to get competitive success and they've been fairly the European Super League debacle aside, where all of the big clubs were involved in that. Very unedifying part of their recent history, but they managed to largely avoid major controversy or tumult. So sponsors and partners are more comfortable with partnering for the longer term, and that's why you look at the brands that they aligned themselves with over the past 12, 18 months. So UPS, Peloton, Google Pixel, Japan Air. They've just recently done one with the kind of the Maldivian Tourism Authority, etc. So they're all that kind of well-known blue chip brands, and that is kind of a testament to Liverpool's ability to retain sponsorship as well as generate use. So I imagine that commercial revenue is going to carry on an incline. Factor in the Adidas revenue from the following year. Expect to see more of that, but the rest of it can be explained away in terms of a lack of Champions League revenue in terms of prize money is wildly diminished in the Europa League than it is from the Champions League, and the broadcast sums are far smaller. So the loss is largely attributable to that, and it's not. It's kind of a set of results which you could have predicted, but we're already almost at the end of the financial year for 2024-25, and that this period will look vastly different to what the last one did.
Do you think because of that then, because we're in better health now, on and off the pitch, and you're right, there have been more sponsorships added. There was literally one this morning. I noticed a Scandinavian broadcast, something or other. I can't exactly remember what it was, but do you think because of that, and obviously you mentioned sort of the predictability and the expected nature of this, and the fact that those in charge in the hierarchy would have known in advance that it was coming, when that sort of was laid bare and the numbers were the numbers. There'd have been no panic in the corridors of Anfield at all. It'd have been like it is what it is. But 57 million is quite a staggering amount of money to lose in any year, but it wouldn't have shocked anybody, I guess.
I mean, it's not like you or I losing 50. I mean,
Granted,
I imagine you're pretty well paid there. So if losing 57 million
I
might be a
couldn't
bit
afford that,
different.
Dave. I'll tell you that,
So
man.
it might be a bit different. But no, they are. Football is an unprofitable business in the main. If you look across the European football landscape, then there are probably in the single digits of clubs that are actually turning in terms of percentage points, in terms of clubs that are turning a profit. Um, it is not a place to kind of look to cream off profits from the P&L at the end of every financial year. The value comes from growing the value of the business over time, and then they exit at a point when they feel it's at its highest. So that's the same. That'll be the same thesis for FSG as it would be for all the other owners in the Premier League. If they feel like the value is peaking, then they'll probably look to kind of sell. But that's not happening soon. But yeah, there would be no concern because it's par for the course. You can expect that if you don't qualify for the Champions League, then ultimately that's impactful. So you look at Chelsea; they kind of based their business model on longer term on them being a Champions League side. Now they may qualify for it this year, but they're 2 years into this big outlay and spend, and they've not done it. So they're already losing ground. Arsenal's return to the top table of European football for the past 2 seasons has been transformational in their revenue streams. So in the Deloitte Money League, which is published in January, they leapfrogged Liverpool actually. So they were in 10th last year, and they're up to 7th this year in terms of total revenue. Now, Liverpool expect to, I imagine, rise to potentially, the top 4 or 5 in next year's list because of performance over the past 12 months. But it would have been more had they gone deeper in the Champions League, but they've already achieved the lion's share of the revenue that they would get from Champions League already, as wild as that sounds. And that's kind of already, when you factor in match day revenue and all the other associated and attributable income, that's probably pushing kind of 90 plus, 100, close to 100 million in terms of how valuable it is. Now they're going to be able to rely on that next season because the likelihood is, and not to jinx anything, they're probably going to be Premier League champions. I mean, barring a pretty miserable set of results and circumstances, which is in turn more money in terms of the Premier League pot, merit payments than they had last year, qualification for the competition again. So they've got, they've got a healthy financial year to look forward to, which is why there would have been more ease over this loss. And they have no profit, no PSR issues relating to that. So, all it is from the optics wise, you put a big figure out there, it looks really, really bad, but they're not hemorrhaging cash. They're still run in the same way. And really the way they are run means that they can swallow these type of seasons when they happen, and they're able to bounce back, which they have done this year.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you can certainly cater for that, like you say, and allow for it, perhaps because, like I say, we're not constantly scrambling around trying to find every penny behind the back of sofas.